Do you know that Jacobo Grinberg, a brilliant scientist and mystic, mysteriously vanished in 1994, leaving behind unanswered questions and groundbreaking research on consciousness? His disappearance has sparked intrigue and speculation, but it also highlights profound lessons about spiritual growth and the pursuit of higher understanding. In this video, we'll delve into the mystery surrounding Grinberg's life and disappearance, uncovering the spiritual insights he left behind. From exploring altered states of consciousness to transcending the limitations of reality, his teachings offer powerful tools for personal transformation. Stay with us till the end to uncover the deeper meaning of his legacy. Number 1. Grinberg's research on the brain's capacity to alter physical reality through mental focus. Let's talk about something truly mind-bending: the idea that our brains might not just perceive reality but actually shape it. That's one of the fascinating ideas Jacobo Grinberg explored in his research, and it's the kind of stuff that makes you stop in your tracks and question everything you thought you knew about how the world works. His work didn't just scratch the surface, it went deep, peeling back the layers of what we assumed to be true about the connection between our minds and the physical universe around us. Grinberg wasn't just tossing out abstract theories. He was convinced there's something fundamentally untapped in the way our brains interact with reality. Imagine, for a second, that reality isn't this rigid, unchangeable structure but more like clay, malleable, pliable, and waiting to be shaped. Now imagine that the sculptor is your own focused mind. Grinberg dove headfirst into this idea, suggesting that mental focus, pure, undistracted, laser-sharp attention, could act as a tool to mold the very fabric of what we experience. It's a radical thought, isn't it? But it's not so far-fetched when you think about the mysterious power of intention and belief. One of the things Grinberg was fascinated by was how the brain could potentially create or alter events, not just internally but externally. He believed the brain wasn't just a passive observer cataloging the world, it was more like a projector, broadcasting its intentions and focus outward. This isn't about magic wands or fantasy, though, it's about the brain as a kind of quantum engine. When you focus your mind with precision, you're not just thinking, you're sending out ripples, like tossing a stone into a still pond. Those ripples, in Grinberg's view, could impact the pond itself, the reality we all swim in. And this wasn't just idle speculation. He was fascinated by experiments that suggested the brain, under certain conditions, could synchronize with other minds or even with broader patterns of energy. Grinberg believed this kind of synchronization could amplify our mental capacity to influence reality. It's almost as if he was mapping out a blueprint for the human potential we've barely begun to scratch. Think about the implications of this for spiritual growth. If we take Grinberg's ideas to heart, it's not just about sitting cross-legged and chanting mantras. It's about cultivating the kind of mental discipline that tunes you into the flow of reality, shaping it rather than being shaped by it. That takes focus, sure, but it also takes trust in yourself, in the unseen, and in the possibility that you're more powerful than you've ever imagined. In the end, Grinberg's work pushes us to consider this: what if the only limits to what you can create, change, or manifest are the ones you've placed on your own mind? It's a question that leaves you feeling equal parts awestruck and humbled, doesn't it? Number 2. The mysterious circumstances surrounding his disappearance in 1994. The disappearance of Jacobo Grinberg in 1994 is a strange chapter in the story of spiritual exploration, one that still leaves many scratching their heads. There are no clear answers, only more questions, which is perhaps the most unsettling part of the whole ordeal. It's not just the fact that he vanished without a trace, but the manner in which it happened. Picture this: Grinberg, a man deeply involved in exploring the mysteries of consciousness, had spent years studying the practices and beliefs of indigenous shamans in the heart of Mexico. His research was nothing short of groundbreaking. Grinberg wasn't just interested in the typical academic approach. No, he sought to experience the profound states of mind and altered realities that these shamans could access. He wasn't a distant observer. He was diving headfirst into the unknown, hoping to unlock secrets about the mind, perception, and the universe itself. Now, imagine the shock when he disappeared, seemingly into thin air. He had been in the midst of a project, studying the spiritual practices of these shamans and even working closely with some of them, when one day, he simply vanished. The last time anyone heard from him, he was preparing to return from a research trip, but never showed up. No sign of struggle, no ransom note, no clues. Just gone. It's like the universe had decided to erase him from the equation. What makes this disappearance even more bizarre is the fact that Grinberg wasn't just any ordinary researcher. He had a profound understanding of altered states of consciousness. He had experienced things that most people could only dream of. And so, his sudden and unexplained vanishing was met with a sense of eerie synchronicity. Was he too close to the truth? Had his journey into the deepest corners of human experience led him into something that was beyond even his understanding? Or was there something more sinister at play, forces, perhaps, that didn't want him to succeed? In the years since, the search for Grinberg has uncovered many theories, but no answers. Some believe that he stumbled upon something so powerful that it cost him his life, or maybe his mind. Others say that he may have gone deeper into a state of consciousness than anyone could comprehend, perhaps disappearing from the material world in a way we cannot fully grasp. The truth, however, remains hidden in the shadows. Grinberg's disappearance is a haunting reminder that not all mysteries are meant to be solved. Some are perhaps better left unexplained, lingering in the unknown, leaving us with only questions that may never be answered. So, what does this tell us about spiritual growth? It reminds us that the pursuit of deeper knowledge can be both transformational and dangerous. We may uncover hidden truths along the way, but not all of them are meant for us to fully understand or even survive. Grinberg's disappearance invites us to reflect on the nature of our own journeys. Are we ready for the truth, no matter where it leads us? Are we prepared for the consequences of spiritual growth that takes us into places far beyond the physical world? The lessons from his disappearance may not be ones we're eager to learn, but they're undeniably important for anyone daring enough to walk the path of deep spiritual exploration. Number 3. His theories on the holographic nature of the mind and the universe. Jacobo Grinberg's theories on the holographic nature of the mind and the universe are fascinating, almost like an invitation to dive into a new way of perceiving everything around us. It's like he was trying to tell us that what we see, touch, and experience every day is just a small fraction of something far greater, a vast, interconnected whole. Imagine walking through life thinking you're only seeing the surface, when in reality, the entire cosmos is reflecting itself within you. Grinberg believed that both the mind and the universe are holographic, which is mind-bending to think about. The basic idea of a hologram is that if you take a small piece of it, you can still see the entire image. Now, apply that to the mind. Every tiny fragment of your consciousness holds the potential to reflect the entire universe. It's as though each thought, each emotion, each fleeting moment is a part of this grand, cosmic image. But here's where things get really interesting. Grinberg theorized that the universe operates not like a machine with separate, isolated parts, but like a living, breathing entity where everything is interconnected. So, if the mind is holographic, then maybe the universe itself operates on the same principle. What happens in one place can affect the whole. It's all part of a fluid, ongoing dance between perception, consciousness, and reality. Now, what does this mean for spiritual growth? Well, if we start to believe that the universe and our minds are holographic, we begin to understand that our inner world is more powerful than we might think. Our thoughts and beliefs aren't just localized or contained in our own heads, they're tied to something much bigger. This opens up the possibility that our spiritual growth, our journey toward greater understanding, could be a way of aligning ourselves with this larger cosmic picture. In essence, as we expand our awareness, we might be tapping into a deeper layer of reality. This way of thinking challenges the conventional notion that growth is a linear process, where you move from point A to point B. Instead, spiritual growth becomes more like peeling away layers of a holographic image, where the deeper you go, the more you begin to see the interconnectedness of all things. Each insight or moment of awareness could, in Grinberg's view, be a small piece of a much larger cosmic truth, waiting to be uncovered. But here's the thing about holograms: they don't follow the typical rules we're used to. They operate on their own logic, one that's less predictable, more fluid, and often harder to understand. If we're to take this metaphor seriously, spiritual growth becomes less about rigidly pursuing a goal and more about becoming open to the mysteries of life, allowing ourselves to evolve without expecting to understand every step along the way. So, the next time you find yourself meditating or contemplating the mysteries of existence, remember that your mind and the universe might not be as separate as they seem. Maybe, just maybe, the entire cosmos is inside you, waiting to be explored. And in that exploration, you might just unlock the secrets of spiritual growth, one holographic fragment at a time. Number 4. Grinberg's unpublished notes hinting at government or covert operations involvement. Let's dive into one of the eeriest twists in the story of Jacobo Grinberg, the cryptic breadcrumbs left in his unpublished notes. They hint, whisper, really, at something dark, something shadowy, something that feels too big to fully comprehend. We're talking about the possibility of government or covert operations being tangled up in his disappearance. It's the kind of thing that sends a shiver down your spine, isn't it? Like staring into a vast, black void and realizing you might not like what's staring back. Here's where it gets wild. Grinberg wasn't just any scientist. He wasn't playing it safe in a lab somewhere, studying tame, predictable phenomena. No, he was probing into the edges of human consciousness, the very fabric of reality. His research touched nerves, big ones. It flirted with the idea that the mind is far more powerful than we're led to believe, that reality itself might be more malleable than concrete. Can you imagine what those implications might mean for those who profit from keeping the status quo rock solid? Yeah, it's a lot to chew on. In his unpublished notes, Grinberg alluded to forces, powerful, hidden forces, watching his work. There were hints that his discoveries might be considered a threat. A threat to what, though? To whom? It's easy to spiral into speculation. Maybe it was about control. Think about it, if someone cracks the code of consciousness, the ultimate key to shaping reality, what happens to those who thrive on controlling information, resources, or even entire populations? That kind of knowledge isn't just dangerous, it's explosive. What's fascinating, and chilling, is how subtle these hints were. Grinberg didn't shout accusations from rooftops. He didn't pen a manifesto. Instead, his notes read like a trail of breadcrumbs, leading curious minds down a shadowy path. There are references to strange encounters, veiled warnings, and a sense of being watched. Paranoia? Maybe. But what if it wasn't? What if he was onto something so monumental that it drew the attention of people, or organizations, who preferred it stay buried? Now, let's talk about the disappearance itself. One day he was there, living, breathing, sharing his ideas with the world. The next, he was gone. No trail, no clear answers, just a void where a brilliant mind used to be. That void is what fuels the fire of these covert operation theories. If someone wanted to silence a voice like Grinberg's, wouldn't making him vanish be the ultimate way to send a message? It's unnerving to consider, but it's hard to shake the feeling that his research might have brushed up against something bigger than any of us realize. And here's the part that sticks with you: what if his disappearance wasn't just about silencing him? What if it was about suppressing the truth he was so close to uncovering? It leaves you wondering if there's more to the world than meets the eye, a world of secrets and shadows, just beyond our reach. Number 5. His focus on merging science with spirituality. Grinberg's quest wasn't just about exploring spiritual realms or delving into ancient practices for the sake of knowledge. He was on a mission to bridge two worlds that, for many, seem like polar opposites. Science and spirituality. Rationality and mysticism. These are concepts that, on the surface, don't mix well together, right? But Grinberg had a different vision. He believed there was a common thread between these seemingly contradictory realms, a deeper truth that could unite them. And it wasn't just a philosophical belief, it was something he was actively working to prove, something that drove his research and his very existence. Imagine trying to make sense of an ancient, spiritual experience using the sharp tools of modern science. It's like trying to explain the beauty of a sunset using a microscope or analyzing a painting through a set of equations. Grinberg wasn't just interested in the what of mystical experiences, he wanted to know how they worked. How does the human mind experience altered states of consciousness? Why do certain rituals or practices seem to trigger profound shifts in perception? And most importantly, can we explain these experiences using the language of science? Grinberg's work was all about merging these two approaches. On one hand, he immersed himself in the world of shamans, exploring their techniques and beliefs with an open heart and mind. On the other, he applied rigorous scientific methodology to understand what was happening behind the scenes, what was going on inside the brain when someone entered a meditative state, or what kind of energy fields might be at play during spiritual rituals. He wasn't looking to dismiss either side. Instead, he wanted to show that they could coexist. In his mind, the mystical and the scientific weren't separate, opposing forces, they were two sides of the same coin, two ways of understanding the same universal truths. But it wasn't just about testing theories or conducting experiments. Grinberg understood that true spiritual growth involves a deep, personal connection to the mysteries of the universe, something beyond the reach of cold data or sterile experiments. So, he didn't just stand on the sidelines and observe. No, he dove into the experiences himself. He participated in rituals, entered altered states of consciousness, and tried to experience firsthand what these ancient traditions were all about. This wasn't some detached research project, it was a personal journey. Grinberg wasn't just trying to study the mystical, he was trying to live it, to feel it, to understand it from the inside out. This combination of intellectual curiosity and personal experience made his work unique. He didn't just want to know what the shamans were doing, he wanted to feel what they were feeling, experience what they were experiencing. He sought to bring science into the realm of the mystical, using it as a tool to better understand something that's often dismissed as irrational or unprovable. But the more he pushed the boundaries, the more questions arose. Was he getting closer to understanding something profound, or was he pushing the limits of what the human mind could handle? In a world that often pits the logical against the mystical, Grinberg's approach was radical. He wasn't content with simple answers or rigid beliefs. His focus on merging science with spirituality wasn't just an intellectual exercise, it was a path toward true understanding, one that required a balance of head and heart, reason and intuition. His work reminds us that spiritual growth isn't just about personal transformation, it's about expanding the way we see the world, challenging the boundaries we've set, and seeking answers that may not always fit neatly into one category or the other. It's about opening up to a reality that is bigger and more complex than we can often comprehend. And maybe, just maybe, it's about learning to live in the tension between the known and the unknown. The disappearance of Jacobo Grinberg in 1994 is a strange chapter in the story of spiritual exploration, one that still leaves many scratching their heads. There are no clear answers, only more questions, which is perhaps the most unsettling part of the whole ordeal. It's not just the fact that he vanished without a trace, but the manner in which it happened. Number 6. His exploration of the placebo effect as a demonstration of mind-body synergy. Jacobo Grinberg's exploration of the placebo effect is one of those ideas that feels like a spark, a small light that, once ignited, illuminates a whole new way of thinking about the connection between mind and body. The placebo effect, this phenomenon where people experience real changes in their health or condition just by believing in a treatment, even if it's nothing more than a sugar pill, has puzzled scientists and lay people alike. But for Grinberg, it was more than just a curious quirk of human psychology. It was a window into something much deeper, a demonstration of the incredible synergy between mind and body. What's so fascinating about Grinberg's take on this is how he looked beyond the standard explanations and saw the placebo effect as a powerful reminder of the mind's influence over the physical realm. He didn't see it as a simple trick or a psychological quirk, but as an essential piece of the puzzle that explains how our beliefs, our thoughts, and our consciousness can shape our reality in ways we may not fully understand. It's as if the placebo effect reveals the deep, almost mystical connection between what's going on in our minds and what happens in our bodies. Think about it for a second. Someone can be given a pill that contains no active ingredient, yet if they believe it will help them, their body responds as though they've received real medicine. The pain might lessen, the energy levels might increase, and sometimes even chronic conditions improve, all based on the power of belief. Grinberg, ever the keen observer, saw this as a reflection of the mind-body synergy at play. It wasn't just that people were tricking themselves into feeling better, it was something more profound. The mind, in his view, could act like a conductor, orchestrating the body's response in ways that science was only beginning to grasp. Now, think about the deeper implications of this. Grinberg wasn't just interested in the placebo effect for the sake of curiosity, he saw it as evidence of a dynamic, active relationship between mind and body. This wasn't about a passive body simply following the commands of the brain, but a two-way street where both the mind and body were in constant communication, constantly influencing one another. In other words, our thoughts, our beliefs, intentions, and perceptions were not just influencing how we felt emotionally or mentally, but were physically affecting the state of our health. It's like the body becomes an instrument of the mind, and the mind, in turn, can be tuned and reshaped by what we believe and how we engage with our inner worlds. For spiritual growth, this brings a radical shift in perspective. If our thoughts and beliefs are this powerful, then they can also be harnessed for healing, transformation, and personal development. The placebo effect is a reminder that we are not passive beings in the face of life's challenges. The very act of believing in something, whether it's a treatment, a personal power, or a higher purpose, could activate a cascade of healing energy within us, bridging the gap between mind and body. And in that space, true growth begins to emerge. So, if we begin to take Grinberg's insights seriously, we start to realize that spiritual growth isn't just about inner peace or enlightenment, it's about aligning our minds and bodies in a way that fosters wholeness and well-being. Our beliefs are not just abstract thoughts, they have the potential to shape our physical reality in ways we're only beginning to understand. Grinberg's exploration of the placebo effect isn't just about how the mind can trick the body, it's about how the mind and body, when synchronized, can unlock our fullest potential. Number 7. The role of spiritual silence and meditation in accessing higher consciousness. Let's talk about silence, not the awkward kind, but the sacred kind. The kind that pulls you inward, past the noise of your daily life, into something deeper. Something that feels both ancient and infinite. Jacobo Grinberg was big on this. He believed that silence and meditation weren't just tools for relaxation or stress relief, but actual gateways to higher consciousness. And if you think about it, doesn't that make perfect sense? Silence isn't empty. It's full of possibility. Now, meditation is a strange beast. At first, it feels like a battle against your own mind. Thoughts popping in and out like uninvited guests, trying to drag you back into the chaos. But here's the trick: meditation isn't about forcing your mind to stop. It's about letting it all flow, thoughts, feelings, doubts, until, eventually, you slip beneath the surface. Like diving into a still lake, you go deeper, and the noise starts to fade. That's where the magic begins. Grinberg believed that in this state of deep, focused silence, the mind begins to align with something bigger than itself. Call it universal energy, consciousness, or even the fabric of reality. It doesn't really matter what you name it. What matters is that in those quiet moments, when the world fades away, you start to feel it. It's subtle at first, like a whisper, but if you stay with it, that whisper can become a symphony. And here's the wild part: Grinberg's research suggested that in this state, the mind doesn't just connect with higher consciousness, it becomes it. The boundaries between you and everything else blur. You realize that the separation you've always felt, between yourself and the universe, between thought and action, is an illusion. Imagine that for a second. You're not just observing reality, you are reality. It's not easy, though. Silence is uncomfortable. It strips away all the distractions we use to avoid ourselves. No phone buzzing in your pocket, no music in your ears, no chatter to fill the void. Just you, sitting with your thoughts, your fears, your doubts. It's raw, vulnerable, and sometimes downright scary. But that's also why it's so transformative. The silence doesn't just show you who you are, it shows you who you could be. Grinberg saw meditation as a practice of tuning in. Like adjusting the dial on an old radio, you're trying to catch the frequency of higher consciousness. It's not always clear or easy to hear, but when you find it, it's unmistakable. It's the feeling of being fully alive, fully connected, and fully present. In the end, spiritual silence and meditation aren't about escaping the world. They're about stepping into it more fully, with eyes wide open and a heart ready to embrace the unknown. And maybe, just maybe, that's what higher consciousness is all about, remembering that we're not separate from the mystery, we are the mystery. Number 8. The lessons on self-awareness and interconnectedness from Grinberg's work. Grinberg's work wasn't just about the flashy, dramatic moments of spiritual discovery or the exotic rituals of distant cultures. It was about something much more personal, something that digs deeper than the surface. At the heart of his research was an exploration of self-awareness and interconnectedness. He believed that to truly understand the universe, to grow spiritually, we first need to understand ourselves, and not just on a surface level, but at the deepest, most fundamental level. Self-awareness, in the way Grinberg saw it, wasn't just about introspection or reflecting on our daily thoughts. It was about diving into the layers of consciousness that usually stay hidden, uncovering the patterns in our minds that shape how we experience the world. It was about peeling back the veil, so to speak, and seeing ourselves not just as individuals with isolated thoughts and desires, but as intricate parts of something much larger. In many ways, his work challenged us to reconsider what we think we know about who we are. We spend so much of our lives operating on autopilot, disconnected from the present moment, caught up in the endless loop of thoughts, worries, and distractions. Grinberg's research pushed us to ask, what would happen if we stopped looking at ourselves as separate, isolated beings and began to see ourselves as part of a larger web of existence? It's like trying to understand a tree by only looking at one leaf. Sure, you'll learn something, but the real magic happens when you take a step back and see how everything is interconnected, how every branch, leaf, and root plays a role in the tree's life. This concept of interconnectedness was central to Grinberg's understanding of the world. He believed that everything is connected, our thoughts, our actions, and even our spiritual experiences. We often think of ourselves as isolated beings, navigating the world on our own, but Grinberg showed us that we're part of a vast network, a shared consciousness that extends beyond the boundaries of our individual lives. It's like being a single thread in a vast, intricate tapestry. You may not be able to see the full picture, but every move you make ripples through the fabric of existence. Grinberg's lessons challenge us to step outside the box of our limited self-awareness and truly recognize the ways in which we're all intertwined. It's easy to forget that every action we take, every word we speak, has an impact not just on us, but on those around us and the world at large. But if we learn to tap into a deeper sense of awareness, we can start to see the connections between things, how our individual consciousness is part of a much larger, shared experience. The more we can connect to this bigger picture, the more we start to realize that spiritual growth isn't just about improving ourselves, it's about understanding how we fit into the larger whole. It's about seeing the interdependence of all things and recognizing that, in the grand scheme of things, we're not so separate after all. The more we nurture this sense of interconnectedness, the more we begin to see the world with new eyes. Suddenly, our lives aren't just about our own individual journeys, they're part of a larger cosmic dance that connects us to everything else around us. Grinberg's work teaches us that self-awareness isn't just a means of personal growth, it's a doorway to a deeper understanding of our place in the universe. By becoming more aware of ourselves, our thoughts, our emotions, our actions, we unlock the potential to connect more deeply with the world around us, to step into a life of greater purpose and meaning. In a world that often feels fragmented and disconnected, Grinberg's teachings remind us that we are all part of something greater. The more we embrace that interconnectedness, the more we grow spiritually, and the more we realize that we're not just living for ourselves, but for the entire web of existence. Number 9. Insights into the power of thought and intention in shaping reality. Jacobo Grinberg's insights into the power of thought and intention in shaping reality are nothing short of mind-expanding. It's almost like he was pointing us toward a secret, that our thoughts aren't just these fleeting little bursts of mental activity, they're more like seeds, with the potential to grow into something real, something tangible in our lives. Grinberg wasn't just fascinated by the way thoughts work in isolation, he saw them as the building blocks of our entire reality. The idea that what we think and intend has the power to shape our world, both internally and externally, was at the core of his exploration into consciousness. What if, instead of simply reacting to the world around us, we had the ability to actively mold it through the power of our thoughts? Grinberg believed that our thoughts aren't just passive reflections of our environment or experiences. No, they're active forces, constantly influencing and creating the world we live in. If we think of reality as this vast, fluid ocean, then our thoughts are like the ripples we send out, shaping the surface in ways we often can't see. But these ripples don't just stop at the surface. According to Grinberg, they go deeper, affecting the very fabric of what we experience. He was particularly drawn to the role of intention in this process. Intention, for Grinberg, wasn't just about setting a goal or making a wish. It was more about aligning the energy of your mind with a clear, purposeful direction. It's like sending a signal into the universe, one that reverberates outward and starts to shift the very forces around you. When we set an intention, whether it's for personal growth, healing, or transformation, we're not just passively wishing for change. We're actively participating in the creation of our own reality. Now, think about how often we let our thoughts wander aimlessly or focus on negative patterns. Grinberg challenged us to realize that our mental habits have the power to reinforce those patterns. If we constantly dwell on what's wrong or what we lack, we're reinforcing a reality of limitation and scarcity. But the opposite is also true. When we begin to shift our thinking, to align our intentions with what we truly desire, we start to carve out a new path, one that's shaped by abundance, growth, and possibility. It's almost as though our minds are like lenses. If we focus on the world through a lens of fear or doubt, then that's what we'll see. But if we can switch to a lens of clarity and intention, the world around us shifts. It's not that the external world changes instantly, but the way we perceive and interact with it becomes clearer, more aligned with our higher goals. And in that clarity, we begin to unlock new opportunities, new connections, and new ways of being. What Grinberg was pointing out wasn't just the power of thought in some abstract sense. He was showing us that intention is the bridge between the unseen world of thought and the tangible world of action. When our thoughts and intentions align, we become co-creators of our own experiences. This isn't about wishful thinking or hoping for something to magically fall into our lap. It's about understanding that our inner world and the outer world are intertwined, that what we focus on and desire has the power to manifest in the reality we experience. In many ways, Grinberg's work challenges us to take full responsibility for the world we create with our minds. If we want to change our lives, we must first change the way we think, the way we focus, and the way we intend. It's a powerful, almost mystical realization that we are not passive participants in the story of our lives, but active creators, shaping our reality with every thought, every intention, and every choice we make. Number 10. The mysterious circumstances surrounding his disappearance in 1994. Let's set the stage. It's 1994, and Jacobo Grinberg, a brilliant mind exploring the uncharted territories of human consciousness, is just gone. Vanished. Poof. No dramatic goodbyes, no clear trail to follow, just an unsettling silence that feels almost louder than any explanation could. The circumstances surrounding his disappearance are the kind of thing that stick with you, like a riddle you can't solve, gnawing at the edges of your mind. What makes it so strange is the total lack of clarity. Grinberg wasn't some recluse hiding in the shadows. He was well known in his field, a man pushing boundaries and asking questions most people wouldn't dare. His work was bold, sure, but it wasn't exactly the kind of thing you'd expect to land someone in trouble, at least not on the surface. And yet, here we are, with a mystery that feels like it was pulled straight from a thriller novel. The timeline of his disappearance is murky at best. One moment, he's in his home, immersed in his work. The next, he's gone without a trace. No signs of struggle, no evidence to suggest foul play, no cryptic goodbye notes left behind. It's like he simply stepped off the edge of reality itself. And if that doesn't make your imagination run wild, I don't know what will. What adds another layer of weirdness is how many theories have sprung up around it. Some people think he uncovered something in his research, something so profound, so destabilizing, that it made him a target. A target of what, exactly? That's where the theories go off the rails. Secret organizations? Cosmic forces? A self-imposed exile to escape dangers we can't comprehend? The possibilities feel endless, and honestly, none of them feel entirely satisfying. Then there's the eerie silence surrounding those closest to him at the time. You'd expect a disappearance like this to spark a flurry of activity, people searching, asking questions, demanding answers. And while there was some of that, it also feels like there's a veil over the whole thing. It's almost as if whatever happened to Grinberg wasn't meant to be uncovered. That's not a comforting thought, is it? The idea that someone could just disappear into the ether, leaving behind a trail of unanswerable questions. But maybe the strangest part is how much his disappearance mirrors the themes in his work. Grinberg was fascinated by the idea of consciousness shaping reality, of unseen forces connecting us all. Could his vanishing be tied to those very ideas? Did he step into some deeper layer of existence, one the rest of us can't access? Or was it something darker, something rooted in the secrets his work might have exposed? Whatever the truth, his disappearance feels like an unsolvable puzzle. It's maddening, haunting, and oddly poetic all at once. And maybe that's the point. Maybe Grinberg's vanishing isn't just a mystery to solve but a challenge to think differently about the boundaries of reality itself. Thank you for joining me as we explored the mysterious life and disappearance of Jacobo Grinberg and the profound lessons his work offers for spiritual growth. His story reminds us that the search for truth often leads us to question everything we know, and that's where real growth begins. If you found this video thought-provoking, Give it a thumbs up and share it with someone who's on their own spiritual journey. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell for more deep dives into topics that expand your mind and spirit. What's your biggest takeaway from Jacobo Grinberg's teachings or his enigmatic story? Let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear your insights. Until next time, stay curious, stay inspired, and keep growing on your path. See you in the next video.